Steve Radford. I don't think this thing's working right. I have a little statement to make. First of all, Sheriff Lopey, we in Siskiyou County support you. I think you know that. Most of us do anyway. We have a welfare state in Siskiyou County that is probably the biggest problem for not having the support that Sheriff Lopey really needs, like the sheriff in Arizona, or the sheriff Sheriff Wilkerson in Josephine County. These sheriffs have 100% support from their citizens. And when the citizens back the sheriff can go to the feds and say, take a hike. But they're not going to stick their neck out until we support them. That's why I'm here from Wairika to support our sheriff. Also, the rest of these sheriffs who are standing up to the country with the Constitution. Our Constitution is not working in our government any longer. We are under a corporate government. You know, and the state is under a corporate state. It's not run by a Constitution. And we don't stand a chance. We, all of us are gray hairs, well, most of us are all gray hairs in here. We're the ones who have the problem. We had let this problem be formed in the last 40 years. We were looking for our RVs and our retirement, thinking that it was like what it used to be when we were kids, and we could trust our government. But we turn around and we can't trust our government any longer. We have a fight. We are at war now. I am at war. That's why I'm here. It makes a... I'm at war. I'm afraid of myself to go up and look in the woods and cut wood and have that, he said it, SOB, in my face about cutting wood right now. Because these guys are coming up here. We've had fires up in our Siskiyou County, and these guys are coming up here from Fresno trying to tell us, well, you can't be up here on this road right now. And, you know, these guys are acting like they're law enforcement, and they're what, forestry? You know, just fresh out of school. So, you know, we've got to support our sheriffs so they can help us do what we need to do, and that's take our country back.
Yes, sir.
This man, Sheriff Downey, just said it a minute ago. He's coming up with innovative ways to handle what's been brought down to them. And that's what's always happened in America, in the United States, is when we've had a problem, is we've dealt with it, we've handled it. But now with this constant looking for the handout, we don't deal with it anymore. We don't take it home and deal with it in our own living room any longer. Well, we'll let them deal with it. What are they going to say? And I hear this all the time. We can't afford that any longer. We've got to deal with it in our own living rooms, in our own towns, and take our country back. Please, please, please. Thank you, sir. Sheriff.
Thank you. The next topic I'd like to talk on is what we're seeing in Siskiyou County and all of our counties, especially where we have BLM or National Forest, and that is the risk and the threat of wildfires. This is something that I've done a lot of research on, especially in Delaware County. The problem that we have is the federal government is taxed with the watershed management and timber management of their federal lands. They are not responsible for public safety. They have no obligation to provide for public safety. In Delaware County, the land management plan adopted by the National Forest Service for Delaware County says that under their fire safety plan, we should be averaging 70 tons per acre of fuel on the ground. That's standing and anything that's brushed on the ground. In Delaware County, like most of the counties up in this area, we are looking at 210 to 240 tons per acre right now sitting on our ground. Over the past 10 years, just natural growth is over 300 million board feet in Delaware County alone. Over that same 10-year cycle, between die-off and harvesting, we have removed less than 3%. So what that means is the amount of fire fuel left on the ground is creating a dangerous situation in all of our Northern California counties. Why? because those that are charged with the management have no responsibility to public safety. That rests with the state and with the county. Constitutionally, public safety rests with our counties and with our states. When you have that much fuel load on the ground, it's only a matter of time before we see the devastation in Delaware County, what we're seeing already in Siskiyou County. And the net result is watershed damage of a huge proportion when those timbers are burnt and the rains return and the muds begin to slide and the damage gets shoved down into those rivers and tributaries. It's all preventable. They've done it in other counties, and those counties are held up as models to be followed by the department, says the Department of Interior. And all it requires is that you take the plans that are already approved by NEPA and CEQA for the Six Rivers National Forest that says you're supposed to have 70 tons per acre, and you go into the forests and you manage those forests to the federal government's plans, and you begin reducing the amount of fuel in our counties, and thereby reducing the danger to our communities. But the other thing that happens is you begin to then take the wood out of the areas, out of our timber, you begin to harvest timber again, and that timber tax goes back to our schools and to our counties, and allows us to provide the necessary services to our communities. Now, fortunately, we were lucky this year. We had a couple of lightning strikes in our county, but luckily enough, because of all the work that they're doing over in Johns County, those helicopters were able to come quickly and put out our fires. And so we lost a few acres, but we didn't lose a lot. But I'm going to let John address what his county is seeing and the threats that he's seeing, because like Delaware County, where we have over 70% in federal holdings and state and federal holdings, he's very similar in what they're looking at in Siskiyou County.
Thanks, Dean. This won't take too long. You know, a lot of this is kind of common sense type of stuff. You know, when my dad came home after World War II, he got a job in a lumber mill. When he was recalled, had to go to the Korean War. After the Korean War, there are jobs available in lumber mills. At one time, my father and both my grandfathers worked in lumber mills. It was you earned a decent wage and good benefits, and you had a high quality of life. Well, what's happened since then is in Siskiyou County, 65% of our land is public land. And what's happened is, you know, I mentioned earlier that we had 22 lumber mills in the early 80s. Now we have 2. It doesn't stand to reason that the people that are managing our public lands, look at the public lands, we have 10 times the fuel buildup that is acceptable in forestry terms in our forests. We just lost 265,000 acres ravaged by wildfires. In the city of Weed, 142 houses destroyed just like that, and 92 other structures seriously damaged. What are we thinking? It makes sense to me. You go in, you thin out the forest, you give people jobs. You know, if you cut a tree down, you plant another one. And then they keep growing. It's a renewable resource, but yet we've hamstrung ourselves because of the spotted owl. You know, the spotted owl is less healthy now because of these stupid forest policies, because they're so overgrown, the spotted owl can't even see the prey, so that they're worse off. And I've asked some of these environmental activists, well, do you kind of enjoy the forest burning down because of these dumb policies? Oh, fire's a natural phenomenon, I've heard some of them say. I said, oh yeah? Well, it makes sense to me to preserve our forests because they belong to the people. Thin out the forest, give some people some jobs, give some revenue to those people, you know, build stronger public safety agencies, stronger public roads departments, stronger public schools, like those revenues used to go for? And doesn't everybody profit? You still maintain the environment, and you still have a forest, yet you manage it sensibly. And you know, in my estimation, we've given this up, you know, because of this environmental extremism. And I can tell you that nobody in Siskiyou County I've ever talked to wants the forest to burn down or for us to destroy the economy. Most of us hunt, most of us fish, most of us love the woods. But you know what? We're destroying it in our efforts to preserve it. And it's stupid. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we got people making decisions in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. that are inimical to everything we stand for, and they're destroying our way of life. And you know, as a sheriff, I'm just getting a little upset that I've got drug traffickers from Mexico, drug cartels in my county, and they're burning the forest down too. And they're destroying the forest. They're destroying the environment because we won't secure our border. And instead of people having viable jobs, you know, they're on welfare, or they're on some kind of public subsistence. And then they start using drugs, they use alcohol, and then they abuse their kids, they abuse their spouses, elders are abused. And that's what we've gotten because of these ridiculous policies. And as a sheriff, I've had it up to here.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about this fire thing too. We had nothing like the devastation John has seen this year, but we get fires all the time. A couple years ago, we had the Berry Point fire. Started, headed up towards Oregon, and the winds changed, and it blew back down south. And it only burned like 58,000 acres in our county. But it's a perfect scenario for explaining how our government is not doing their job. You know, of the 58,000 acres that burned up Modoc County, let's just say it was 60, 30 was on Modoc National Forest and 30 was on Collins Pines, private. Collins Pines was hauling the trees out of there. They were still smoking, and they were hauling those trees out of there. They're in the business, that's their business. I fought with the Forest Service for 2 years. I said, listen, we gotta get these trees out of here. Because we had a fire 10 years earlier in the south end of our county, and they didn't take a single tree out of there, and it ended up blowing over. Now the cattle can't use the range like trying to get through a maze. It's just devastation. And it got so bad, I'm just fighting these people. I said, listen, these trees are gonna bloom, they're gonna be worth
Now, maybe I can put Angela to work for me. Could you use the wireless mic up here? Does anybody have any questions on realignment, specifically?
Yes, the money that Washington gives to states to assist with all of this, is that money being distributed amongst you sheriffs as it should be? In other words, is Sacramento spending some of it for something else, and you men ain't seeing any of it?
We didn't get no federal funds for realignment. It is all a state program. This was, even though it was mandated by the federal government, we were forced to do the action because that was a case against the state of California. The actual realignment shift of responsibility from the state to counties was not done. There was no federal funding involved. It's all state funding.
It's, you know, years ago when they turned all the mental people loose in California we still not getting over that. This is the kind of the things that we're getting all of our jails full of now is the mentally ill. And we need to get some help back, get the mental hospitals to take care of the problem, so we can do our normal inmate and work.
There's no doubt that your largest mental health facilities in the state of California are county jails. That's what has happened. You said it yourself when many of the state facilities were shut down. Those people have to be housed somewhere when they're exhibiting the issues that they're having, and for the protection of the public. So we have, in my jail, I have probably 4 or 5 mental health clinicians on staff, provided by the Department of Health and Human Services with the County of Humboldt, but that are housed in my facility to deal with the mentally ill issues that we have. And I would say, and the psychotropic drugs that we have to, are mandated to hand out to these folks. And interesting thing also is some of these people that come into our facilities are already on some type of medication. Our mental health staff has to wean them off of those drugs because they are so dangerous, and put them on something that's more manageable. So they're coming from the outside into our facilities already on psychotropic drugs that are already beyond what we feel safe for both the individual and for our staff working in the facility. So it is a great burden on us to deal with those mental health issues.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My name's Tom Conger. My wife and I have made a study of the next county over here in Arizona, a particular guy in Maricopa County, and his first name is Joe. He's been there now for about a decade, and he's been doing a lot of, well, they don't really want to go to his place. He doesn't do anything but really except make them do a lot of work. And I think by the time they leave that place, he has a pretty good not want to come back record, I understand. And I was just wondering if any of you ever heard of Joe over there in Arizona and what he does. There's a lot more I can tell you about it, but just for that, I just want to see how your sheriffology is. Thank you.
You're not saying we pamper our boys, do you?
Yeah, I think all of us are aware of Joe Pio and his tent city out there. But yes, he definitely has a reputation for making his facility a definite jail that you're not wanting to return back to.
My daughter put them in a tent in this place.
Yeah,
don't want to come back to my jail. It's like being in a tent.
Joe Arpaio in Maricopa County, Arizona, is probably one of the finest sheriffs in the United States as far as I'm concerned, because he runs one of the biggest sheriff's departments, and they've got huge crime problems where he works, and he's been, he's over 80 now. And that guy was a military policeman. He was retired from the Drug Enforcement Administration. The guy has worked the vast majority of his life in the law enforcement profession, and he's done a lot of innovative things. And I met Joe. I admire him. I think he's an outstanding sheriff. I think he tells the truth, and he's been under siege. The federal government, I mean, if we're truthful, they've gone after him on numerous occasions. And one of the things he's done too is he's enacted, policies that enforce laws against like illegal aliens that are causing crimes, in that jurisdiction. Politically correct solutions are not